Hey, we're group 2, and I'd like to talk about Flexplay, our concept, and Pull and Play, which is a product for our concept. We'll start right out with a problem statement, which involves hands. We want to design a spring solution that can complement your portfolio and that will make you seem more advantageous to your competitors with the values of quality and your know-how. If you look at what your competencies are, we would say it's quality and your know-how, which is why we have to look at what segment we wanted to work in, and we pretty fast thought of children, because when we have to do with children, it's very, very important that the quality is very good, and the safety, of course, is the number one priority. And of course, you also have some experiences that you have to work with campaign and others. And then, of course, children love to run and play, and springs have motion, so that's also very easy method to improve. We also have worked with another company called Ellergaard, which is an architectural almost company. It doesn't actually make playground product, but they design the whole playgrounds, which we think goes very well with our concept. For ourselves, we look at aesthetics, because for us as students, we've never tried to work with children before, so it's very, very new and very different to what we're used to. And that's also because we have to find out how to get the information we want out of them. Our main focus here is the after-school care called SFO in Denmark, which is usually at the age around 6 to 10 years old, and it's outdoors, and we both look at public schools and at private schools, which of course have very, very different budget and different constraints of how you have to spend their money. If you look at different children, we can see they start in some school, they start to understand abstraction, and their play is role play, and it's very abstract. The older they get more realism based, and they got more graphic. They play house, they play more social based games. If we then look at the workload for the pedagogues here, it's usually about 9 to 12 children per pedagogue, which is quite a lot to handle, which means that, of course, whatever they do, they must be able to occupy that much children. Yeah, that's why indoors activities, which is usually have to be very, very quiet, not that much noise, and they can't really run around and play, but when they're outside, they can scream and yell and be as physical as they want, which is very important. But since we know the more children outside, the better it is, but they usually only force them around 2 times, half an hour when they're actually there. So, and when they are outside, it's usually the same playground that the school has, so it's not really suited for this age group of children, and it's usually very dull and boring outside. But fortunately in that age they're pretty creative, because they also have the time to it, not just the small breaks in school, so they actually create their own play. They make tents, caves and hideouts and stuff like that. The playgrounds that you have are usually very, very old, because it's extremely expensive for a new playground. It's about a couple of $100,000 to millions to get a new playground. So they usually last around 30 years, and when they do get new ones, they always go for the safe choice, because, I mean, if you spend $1 million on it, it has to work, and has to work for 30 years. And that's probably caused a lot of children to lose interest over time, and also a lot of the budget goes to maintenance, because a lot of the equipment is that old. So our goal here is to motivate outdoor play for the children, and a good metaphor for that is we want the children to think that they should just continue the game they just made up last break.
Yeah. Now I'll talk about the overall concept called Flexplay. It's like a leasing business where you lease a playground. It consists of a kind of grid you lay out on your playground area, and then you just change out your playground frequently to ensure that the playground always is up to date and fun for the children. Yeah. Benefits for both the institution, the children, and your guys and Ellergaard. For the institutions, it's about economical challenges, because, as Bjarke said, it's very expensive to build these playgrounds. The institution has no maintenance of this playground. It's also economical challenge for the institution. And the institution is allowed to experiment with what the kids love in the school, what works and what does. So in the end, they'll get a playground that's very efficient, very great for the children. For the children, it's outdoor activity and the fact that new toys is always fun, or the most of the time fun. For Hans, it's producing a concept product that maybe can be covered in other segments, like for car signs or stuff like that. For Ellergaard, it's a new business model, a way of selling playgrounds, and it also gives them a chance of make research on children's play. Yeah. The basic construction of Flexplay is you got the hardcore foundation, and then you've got a layer of concrete where you place these cups for the poles for playground equipment, and then a layer of rubber mats to ensure a soft underlay. In connection with attaching these playground elements into the ground, we have seen on different ways of fixing. Here we have some braking device, friction device, and we have seen worked something on expansion screws, like the steering on a bicycle. But we kind of went back to the more simple one where you just bolt it together, because we discussed that in fact that it's a professional who installs this equipment. We rather want to go in a direction where we have a simple and less mechanical device and have a more sustainable solution here. Yeah. The cup where you guys comes in is like the rubber mat on top. Then you have this flange and the tube welded together, and these brackets are then connecting it all together. And the top provides a mounting system for the poles, and the bottom of the bracket provides drain for water, and it also provides. It also makes the cup stable in the concrete as when you're Stougaard casting it together. Yeah. The challenge in this concept is the grid. Of course, we have to make sure the grid is suitable for all kinds of playground elements, like bottom, it's adapted for swings and other standard products. We also see a challenge of if you want smaller objects to fit into these holes, like you want to build an obstacle course, you'll have to have a small locking mechanism to provide this idea. Yeah?
Yeah, and I would like to present the pull and play product which is designed for the Flexplay concept. So the whole point is this being a product series that can be installed in the Flexplay. And the whole thing comes from these poles, where they will all be installed in the holes, and then you can drag out a piece of canvas and fix it to one of the other poles in the same grid. And that way the children are able themselves to build up walls, actually. And buy this, they can make mazes, they can build their own village and just simple hideouts, whatever. And some of the canvases will have holes in them, so that it can be used for climbing as well. It can be used to throw balls through it, making competitions that way. And it will also create the contact if it's a maze we're talking about or a hideout. So there's loopholes looking out. And if you look at it, the whole idea is that it can be a base for a lot of different kinds of play. So the kids can play these fantasy games where this combined becomes a police station or a pirate ship the one day and the next, because it has to be fun for more than just 14 days. And on the other hand, you can still have these construction games, which is building up, the fun part being the creation part. And then there's a rule playing, where it was the ones Bjarke told about as well, where you put up these rules for one game and then they play it. So combined with the vision, the whole point is they can start up their own games and they can play them again later on in the day. It will motivate them to keep going outside and to play on. And the next day they can build up a new one. So, and the benefits is a very flexible solution that can fit into different areas for the institution. So when an institution is about to buy this, they can actually fit it into whatever area they've got. And the children, they get a big variety in game types, so these role-playing and construction games. And another day, they get a new product category. So this is not a thing you usually see on a playground, so it will be new to them. And for you, Haynes, it's going to be positioning you on a continuously evolving market. So what we hope is that this can be a possibility to, because of your specialities in quality and safety, to be the ones delivering springs for the Flexplay concept. So every time there's a new thing, you can come in and develop with. Yeah. So, yeah. And this concept hasn't gone that far yet, so there's still a lot of challenges, and I'll be telling a little bit about them, because if you look at this as seen from the top, so that's the grid, then one pole will have to be able to stretch the canvas to different poles to get the right flexibility out of it. So the shell around it has to be able to rotate. So we've been working with an inner core and then the torsion spring to get the canvas out, and then a shell that rotates around it so that you can be flexible. And the roll-up has some challenges as well, because we want it to be straight rolled up each time, and we don't know how much the kids are going to stretch it and pull it, so it's quite important that the spring solution in this will actually roll it up straight. And then the roll-up speed is quite important as well. It's not supposed to smack back and maybe hit someone on the way, so it has to be quite slow. And then with the roll-up, there will always be problems with damp stains, because it's outside and it might get wet, and then when you roll it up wet, what happens and stuff like that. So we've been looking on sails and awning and how they prevent that. And then the space, we actually have material tests here, and as you see, it is quite thick, and if we need to make room for air to prevent damp things, then it might take up a lot of space. So we haven't worked on that yet, but we know we need to work on it. How much is this supposed to take up? And then the material strength of this, if we need to put holes in it, and how can we do that? And we need to test that, because the material is not made to be given holes in and climbing in it, but we've been told that it can probably be used. We've been to Forp Sommerland, and they are the ones who showed us that sub-supplier, who makes, that's for trampolines and all kinds of sheets. So it is very strong, and it can be used, so we hope it'll work. But there will also be the problem with vandalism, and how we get, are they supposed to be locked up at night so that people can't come in and roll them out and stuff like that. So, yeah. And then we've got the fixing, and that's where we are right now, so there's no drawing of that, because it needs to be a user-friendly fixing for a 6-year-old to actually be able to mount it and for it to work. And it has to be safe and strong when it's been fixated. And then the fixing versus the rotation, because you need to be able to fix it, and then it won't rotate if you need to drag out the canvas from another one. So that's what we're working with, but we know all of this, and we're in the middle of it. So going on process. But that's where we are right now. And I don't know if you'll switch the slide back to, yeah.